Welcome to Pure Podcast. I'm so excited to be here today with Michael Ben Mella. He is a spiritual mentor, an inspiration. He is a real estate agent. He gives incredible meditations. He is inspiring the Jewish world. He is changing it as we know it. It is really thanks to you, all the teachings and all the inspiration that you're bringing. Very excited for you all to meet him. I am so honored to have you today on my podcast and chat with you.
Thank you for having me. So excited.
Yay.
The Tahora Pure Podcast.
Yes. So I came across your classes about 6 months ago when I was going through a really difficult, dark period in my life. And Hashem just kind of sent me and he's like, this is what you need to learn. This is what you need. It has been such a blessing. And now you're friends with my husband and we all went to this wonderful meditation retreat in Mexico together, which I feel like I should just call this podcast like the people I went to Mexico with, because everyone
Right, that would make sense.
Yeah, everyone that I interview, we just talk about that. But you're such an inspiration to the South Florida community and really across the globe with the classes that you're teaching and just the way that you embody Judaism and spirituality in a way that other people are really starting to learn about. And it's coming fast to the religious world. And you are really part of that too. So kind of wanted to share all that wonderful information with the world. So welcome.
Thank you. First of all, super happy to be here. It's a really honor to be here.
Yes. So how did you get to where you are in life? Were you always connected to God spiritually? What was your journey to where you are really today?
So first of all, I want to say that I'm not even there. I'm constantly growing, getting whatever that place is. I basically grew up in a very traditional Jewish family, South American. I was born in Venezuela and moved to America when I was about 7, 8 years old. Basically just living a standard, traditionally Jewish life, meaning we'll have Friday night Kiddushim, and then we watch our television and we'll watch Full House. And as we grew up later on in life, I'm going out Friday nights after having dinner at the house. Went to a Jewish day school called Hillel here in South Florida. And one of the things that I think from that whole experience that at least helped me in my journey is that they did teach you the basics in regards to Judaism, putting on tefillin every day, praying every day. But unfortunately, on the other side of the coin, because I didn't have any real strong, let's say, pull or connection to want to grow in any way, nor did I feel like I had, not only from my own family, but friends, nobody was really like wanting to be religious, quote unquote. I had no drive. And on the contrary, for me personally, as I was growing up, in the school, for example, I was actually more turned off by Judaism. So again, not having so much of that knowledge, love, background of Judaism. For example, because I wasn't observant at the time, let's say I've been in school, I was one of those guys that was always hanging out with the girls, the girlfriends, all that stuff. And if I hug a girl in school, you're getting lunch attention. So I was having a lot of lunch attention. I became very good at cleaning up, up a lot of garbage in the classrooms and in the cafeteria. But it just became something which was just pushed on you. There was no love. There was no wow Hashem. It was very much in the mind. Anything that was taught was Gemara or was just general philosophy or Jewish history. And it was just another subject to me. It was like science, social studies, Talmud at 2 p.m., just another class. It wasn't life. It wasn't even taught like that. And here you have an opportunity with a young person who is not connected at all. That's one of the things that I felt was a disconnect for me at that time, was that I felt like Judaism is just a class. It's not life.
And as a young, impressionable child, that's horrible. Like you have somebody who is there and ready to receive, and to just make it another subject.
Correct.
That breaks my heart. That's awful.
Yeah, it's still happening today.
Yeah.
So that was a part of my upbringing. Eventually, I went to school, University of Miami, majored in broadcast journalism, television. I always wanted to be an MTV VJ.
Oh, so this is close, right?
This is right up my alley. I wanted to be the next Carson Daly. I don't know if that's your time frame or not.
Yeah.
And went to school. Definitely had even less connection to Judaism at University of Miami, living a very, very out there, materialistic, secular life. And then, as the years progressed, I had a crazy story that happened to me that really was the start of everything. In my senior year of college, I'll never forget this story because to me this is like, it'll always stay in my heart. And I once in a while, as I'm going to talk about, I try to make an anniversary to watch this film, which I'm going to say to you right now what it's about. I woke up on a Sunday morning in my apartment and woke up in the morning, made myself some breakfast, turned on the television, and out of nowhere, there is this channel called PBS. PBS is a
Yeah,
public
it's still
broadcast
around.
system, educational. Oh, it's still around.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And why would I watch PBS? Like, I would never even leave it on. I'm watching sports, music, etc. And this is the channel that's on. What's on it? A documentary. It's called Hasidism in America, narrated by Sarah Jessica Parker and Leonard Nimoy.
Wow.
Sarah Jessica Parker at that time is Sex and the City.
Yeah.
It's huge. She's narrating this documentary with Leonard Nimoy, Star Trek,
Sure.
both Jewish. And I am watching this documentary. I'm literally in another planet watching it, but I'm watching it. And I'm seeing this documentary about the Hasidic life in America, how it all happened, how the immigration came in here. And you watch, all these different, let's say, groups up there in New York and how they live their lives. And as I'm watching them, I noticed there's one trend in this video. And that was the fact that they were very, very happy with their lives. Now, I was also very happy with my life. I liked my life very, very much. And I also went to a Jewish school, so I know what they're doing. It's not like foreign to me. But as I'm watching it, I go, they're crazy. Like, they're crazy. Like, that's crazy. The idea of keeping Shabbat to me at that time was like, that's crazy. I'm going to University of Miami. I go to college football games on Saturday. Like, that's unheard of. Fine. So I finished watching this documentary, and off I went. That was on a Sunday. On a Tuesday, it was a Tuesday afternoon, and I remember I got home from school. It was like an afternoon, just got home from school, got back to my apartment, turned on the television again, and again the documentary's on. And again I watched that documentary the full way through. And I was like, wow, it's like it was impactful to me, and it was like so interesting to me. Okay, so now I watched it twice.
Okay.
Thursday night rolls around, and usually that's the night a lot of people in college go out.
Right.
It's a big night. So I went out that night. I got home maybe like around 2, 3 in the morning, get into my bed, turn on the television, and guess what? That documentary's on. And I watched it again.
Oh my gosh.
Okay? Now, that's, for some reason, Hashem had to send me something that had to come already through some medium that I'm already connected to, which is television.
Right.
Right? And he had to show me something that would impact my soul that was profound to me, even though if someone, maybe a regular person would be like, okay, it's Michael, it's a nice documentary. For something, it spoke to me. Okay. At the same time, I'll still never forget this. I had a Super Bowl party. It was the year that Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl. I'll never forget it because it's still like in my mind. There were a couple of people there that I had grown up with, that 2 of them already had gone to Rabbi Zweig's yeshiva in Miami Beach. Mm-hmm. These are people that are coming the same background like me, also very much, crazy out there, and they started getting their act together. And they've been, for a while, they were hounding me, come to a Torah class, come to a class. I'm like, leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. I have no interest. So all of a sudden, one time they asked me again, and after watching these documentaries and like whatever, I'm like, fine, okay, fine, I'm gonna go. So I went to the yeshiva in Miami Beach at the time. That's where it was, on I think 15th and Alton Road. And I went to Rabbi Zweig, who was the head of the yeshiva at that time. Mind you, this is now close to, how old am I now? That was like almost like 25 years ago. It's kind of crazy that was that long ago. Time's going by really fast. And I walked to his office. It was a Parsha class, standard 40-minute class. We learned maybe 5 psukim in the Chumash, finished the class, and I was like, wow, that wasn't so bad. And it was the first time in my life that I've ever learned Torah, and it was like not a class. I wasn't being graded on it. It was just what it was. And it was very nice. I was like, okay. Fast forward, very quickly, within that time frame, all of a sudden I started making some very big changes in regards to my life, which was like, doesn't make any sense because it was no teacher, no rabbi, nobody. It was just like, okay, that was a random class, but I wasn't being helped by anyone.
And how old were you this time?
I'm now probably 21, 22 at that time. And all of a sudden I woke up one day and I'm like, I lived right around a corner from Wendy's. And to me, late night stuff, like that's like my life, So I'm like, one day I woke up, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to have any more milk and meat anymore. That was the first one. I was like, milk and meat,
Just
no.
out of the blue.
Out of
just
the blue.
Milk
It was
and
just
meat.
and I
That was your
love
thing.
cheeseburgers and I love my chicken parmesan and I love all this stuff. And I'm
Okay.
like, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then very right after that, like within a week, I was like, no more shrimp, no more lobster. I don't want that anymore. These are part of like normal. When you're in the secular world, like I'm sure people that are secular, whoever will listen to this, it's so normal. It's not even like something you think about. It's just life.
Yeah.
I have non-kosher food. I have whatever.
Why
it's
would
normal.
your food affect you energetically or spiritually?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Why? Right. And why? And it's life. This
Yeah.
is who I am. Like, what do you mean? I don't have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I very much stopped that. All of a sudden, I went from that, within like weeks, I made another big decision. I'm like, I don't want to have non-kosher meat anymore. That was a big one.
That's a hard one.
I am surrounded by college friends that party. My family is nothing to do with this mentality of, they also would eat whatever it was that I was eating. So I decided to do that too. And that was also a process.
And this was just from learning those 5 psukim and watching those documentaries.
That's it. That's all it took.
I'm curious, what was it about those documentaries that woke something up in you?
I think that it was so intriguing to me to see how rich our culture was. And I think combined with the fact that I saw their happiness and I saw there was something deeper that I had no access to. And I felt like it was just, again, it was something that spoke to my soul. That's what God needed to show me. It didn't have to be so complicated and so deep. And it was just, this is what it was. And my soul was like, yep, something's there. I don't know what. Okay, fine. Fast forward, I graduate college. I moved to South Beach. Now I'm living in the heart of the most, I would say, party central area of South Beach. And this is now, what year are we talking about? This is 2003.
And you're kind of keeping kosher-ish, kind of
So
getting there.
I'm like living a double life.
Okay.
I am trying to keep up with some level of kosher, which is like kosher meat. If my friends order pizza, I'm still eating pizza from outside places, but I'm not mixing the milk and the meat. I used to have long hair, and then I used to wear a beanie hat on top of my hair.
Got to see a picture of that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And so I used to have that was my kippah.
Okay.
So I used to go out and party in South Beach, and that was like my look. And at that time, oh yeah, it's cool, whatever. And at the same time, I'll take a glass of alcohol and like say a blessing, like quietly, like nobody hears me. And okay, fine. And so within that process, it was very difficult because I had no help. Nobody was helping me. It wasn't like I was still making an effort. Once in a while, I would pop into that yeshiva for like a random prayer once in a while. And eventually I was also working with my parents. They worked in fashion. They had a bunch of retail fashion stores for women all around Florida. And then I would put on once in a while, like I'd secretly go in one of the closets, like in this like office space that we have, and I'd put on my tefillin, and I'll try to say Shema Yisrael. Like I'll do something, nobody really pushing me, just on my own. While that's going on, I'm partying like a rock star at that time. So it's really weird. It's like this double life. One day I got my hands on Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, Jewish meditation. I think the book is called The Introduction to Jewish Meditation or Practical Jewish Meditation. And I started reading that book. And it was like my first access into like actually something that was not regular Torah, but like talking about meditation and all this stuff like that. And I was like, wow, this is like really cool. This is like interesting. So I was like reading the book, and like that was like my Torah book that I had at that time. And within that process, that's how I kind of like began some sort of new interest into trying to learn. Fast forward, this is where it gets even more interesting, is that as I'm partying in South Beach and working with my parents and working in this fashion store, and they had stores all over Florida, I started plugging into a couple of different online components to learn Torah. So we're talking about 2003, 4, and 5, around that time frame.
Okay.
I started plugging into a website called Simple to Remember. Simple to Remember was all the classes from Rabbi Akiva Tatz. Rabbi Akiva Tatz, he's one of the premier, profound teachers right now in the Jewish world today. Okay. He's huge. And if you go to his website, you'll see all his classes are all this, not just mystical, but more like Olam Haba. It's a whole 3-4 classes on Olam Haba, Mashiach time, the resurrection of the dead, like all these like cool outside stuff. Like nobody taught me about this. I want to learn. Mm-hmm. Free choice, this, that. And I started like a junkie. I started going through all the classes, and I started taking all these classes and burning them on CDs. Remember, we used to have that back in the day.
I was burning like Britney Spears on CDs, but yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Me too. I was also burning NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, right? Cheers to that.
Cheers.
I did not just say that. Okay.
It's okay. We won't hold it against you.
So what happened is that I started taking that, and then I started going on Aish Audio. Aish Audio.
Right.
And they had a Jewish history class with Rabbi Ken Spiro, and he was also just going through a whole series on Jewish history. So I'd be burning that too.
I connected to him so much. His book, I literally read it front to back. I loved it. He's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I'd be listening to that. I'd burn all these things, and I had these really long car rides from here to Tampa, from here to Orlando, from here to Gainesville. I was doing this, so I had a lot of time in my car rides. So I'd just be like a junkie all day long, CDs, Torah, nonstop. And of course, that's, it's like clearing out some schmutz that I have in my soul as I'm going through this process. Obviously, still living this kind of double life, but learning a lot. And eventually, just to put things into perspective, one of the clubs that we were going to, one of the guys I went to high school with, he became one of the biggest club promoters in South Beach. And he also started now having this interest in becoming more religious and listening to the Torah. So he also had a bunch of CDs that he used to have with him. Imagine I'm walking to the club and I'm like, he's like, take this CD. I'm like, take this CD. And we're like exchanging.
Black market Jewish audio, right?
In a club in South Beach. It was really surreal.
Wow.
Okay. But this is what we're holding in 2004, Okay. Fast forward more, and eventually God sends me an incredible lifesaver, because he sees that I'm struggling so much and I don't really have anybody to really help me. And all of a sudden I was in a club one night, and at that time, one of my girl best friends, her sister was there. And it ended up being that we ended up hitting it off. And it also ended up being that girl best friend of mine, her whole family is religious. They were Chabad religious.
Okay. So
that led to a relationship that I started with my wife to be at later on. But the cool thing about it is that I got to actually now start going to her parents' house and learning Judaism, and learning Shabbat. And I was staying at her uncle's house for Shabbat. They all live very close. So I got to experience going to Shabbat continuously to her house and learning and understanding what it looked like, and then walking to shul, and then going to what it's like to be in shul. And that was a process.
That was your first exposure to that?
Yes, that was my first exposure. So now at that time, I'm like 24, 25. Now I'm learning. And at the same time, I'm not just learning. I'm learning from my father-in-law and my uncle-in-law, it's called at that time. They're legendary, big builders in regards to the Jewish South Florida world here in South Florida. They built a lot of shuls, mikvahs. They're leaders, like crazy, amazing, selfless leaders. So I got to learn from really top people.
Wow.
In regards to not just any run-of-the-mill Judaism, but like what does it mean to really be a leader? And they didn't lead by like saying you need to be a leader, more like by example. They're just doing whatever they're doing, like, wow, that's pretty awesome. And so essentially I became observant under the auspices of Chabad.
All right.
Okay? So that's how that happened.
Step one, right?
Step one.
Gateway Judaism.
Gateway to Judaism.
Yeah, there is.
Right. They put me on first base. They give me my uniform.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
But it wasn't enough.
it wasn't enough. Because then eventually, Baruch Hashem, I got married. And then I said that for like, I think it was like a good 10 years. I lived what I like to call, and what many people experience and to experience for the rest of their lives, unfortunately, is a very run-of-the-mill Jewish life, which means I do the basics. I'm keeping kosher. I keep Shabbat. I pray in minyan. Maybe I pray 3 times in a minyan. Many of these people, especially that come through the Chabad system, especially if you're coming from as a Baal Tshuva, many times you find that like even the Torah is not as enforced. It's not as pushed. It's more like come, daven, pray, tefillin, go.
Right.
Big event in the shul, holidays, come, go. But the Torah was never pushed. And where I was specifically, where I was living in Highland Lakes at the time, which is right off of Aventura, Torah was not at all pushed, at all. There was much actually access to the Torah at all. And I also wasn't at a state either where I was like, oh, let me go to, I don't know, a different segment of Miami to go find that Torah. I was very comfortable. That's the thing, you get comfortable with your life. So I like to call it a 9-to-5 run-of-the-mill Judaism. Then things got interesting. Fast forward 10 years after living that kind of a life. And once in a while, you know, opening up books here and there. I knew my background also important to understand because it leads to where I'm at now. Sure. My dad is Sephardic. My mom's Ashkenazic. My dad's family stems from Greece and Turkey. My mom's family is Ashkenazic, Polish as it gets. And so I'm a mutt. Even, you know, usually you try to find that when you go into Judaism, you're following your dad's path. That's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. I didn't do that because I didn't have access. My dad didn't give me any of that stuff, not to his fault, of his own. He never had it either. So I had that within me. So once in a while, I try to open up a Sephardic thing just because like, I feel like I have to do that. But I wasn't really like doing much with like Torah learning, really. At the age of 35 is when everything started to change. My father-in-law, who I told you who was an incredible person, leader, he got cancer at that time. And at that time also, because I was already a very big part of that synagogue that I was at, it's called the Beit David Highland Lakes Shul. At that time, they asked me if I could be the vice president of the synagogue. So I'm like, I still feel like I'm like a little guy, a little kid. Like, what do you mean I'm a vice president? Mm-hmm. And then I felt like, well, if I'm going to be vice president, I feel like I need to like do something. I don't know. I don't even know what vice presidents do, but like I feel like I need to like do something. And all of a sudden, it just like as if God just sent me a massive download that I cannot describe it in any way. But it just all of a sudden came to me. I was working at real estate. I till this day I work in real estate. And at that time I was flipping homes for over 10 years. So design and how things look and has always been a big part of how I viewed the world. And the synagogue that I was in, even though it was like new, it was like a shell. Literally was a shell with like some old bookshelves, some ugly carpet, and it was like whatever. So I said, before we discussed the actual shul, I said, you know what would be really cool? If I was able to get a Torah learning project in honor of the refuah of my father-in-law. I have no experience with Torah. I have no experience with any of this world. But it was like this thing like, this is Michael, this is what you have to do, and you're going to do it.
Right.
And I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm like, this is what you need to do. I'm like, okay. So God just sent me a lot of success quickly and fast. I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? I set like a date. I'm like, we're going to run this thing, and it's going to start 45 days from now. And I'm going to call it the Lighthouse Project. Why the Lighthouse Project was because the rabbi in the synagogue one time made a statement how the lighthouse represents something that is shining the light into people in the darkness in the sea, and it helps you to get back to shore.
Okay, that's beautiful.
Right, and the water representing the Torah,
right.
And this idea of like, we're going to help you come back. I like my lighthouse. I'm like, cool, that sounds cool. You know what? I'm going to call it the Lighthouse Project. I just want to make this also known for all you people out there. Every project that's out now, we were the original project. Because there's no such thing. Everybody started calling their projects in whatever it was. This is this project. And there was no other projects.
No.
We're the original projects. People are like, why do you call it project? I'm like, I don't know. It sounds cool. I don't know.
Do you want to hear a really funny story? because I kind of came in after you guys started the Lighthouse Project. When did you guys start it? 2015. Okay, so just right after I started getting into classes, and I came across the Lighthouse Project, and I wanted to make a donation in honor of somebody whose husband had passed away. So I did, and I go on the website, and I'm wondering why she never got an email or something. So I called her, and she's like, it came from the Jupiter Lighthouse Project. So the Lighthouse Project in Jupiter was raising money to make their lighthouse, renew it or whatever, revamp it. And I thought I was giving money to you guys.
Oh my God.
And it went to her. And she's like, I didn't understand why you wanted to donate in honor of my husband who just died. Like, why would you donate it to Jupiter, Florida? And I was so embarrassed.
That's a great story. Can we call them to get that money back?
I know I think it was like $18, but I was just mortified. I was like, no, oh my gosh, the wrong lighthouse. But I loved the fact that you guys called it that. So it started, and then what happened after that?
So then I always say, I don't like to say I. Hashem really just did everything because it doesn't make any sense to me every time I think about it. I'm like, okay, I am a mutt. I like Chabad. I like Ashkenazic. I like the Sephardic. I actually had already some sort of interest in Rabbi Nachman through learning a little bit of the Garden of Emunah from Mashal Marush.
Right.
That was my only extent of knowledge that I had on Rabbi Nachman at that time. But I was like, I like this. This is like good. Like this, like it's cool. It's like speaks to me.
Yeah.
Fine. But that was really the extent. And I'm like, how cool would it be if I was able to just call up all the different, first I went to Highland Lakes and I went, you're Mr. Sephardic teacher. You're the rabbi of the Sephardic shul. You're the rabbi of the Chabad. You like to teach. Get me every single type of teacher that represents every gamut of Judaism. And let's see if we can put everybody together. The idea was to have 8 to 9 simultaneous classes at the same time in a Beit Midrash room. And this is the idea. And then we're going to do a women's program every single day, classes for women. Within that context, I said, okay, fine. So I started calling up all these rabbis. I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, what do you think? And they're like, yeah, we're in. And I started getting even like, the bigger rabbis of the North Miami Beach Kollel. And at that time also, that was the deal that we had to make with them, is that they're like, Michael, we want to honor you for our North Miami Beach Kollel dinner.
Okay.
And I said, thank you very much. It's very nice. But here's the deal. You guys are teaching in my program. So now we put in some bigger names from these Kollel people that are giving you the more the yeshivas tract, combined with the Chabad guys, combined with Sephardic people, and we had about 19 different teachers from South Florida. We had the men's program 2 nights a week. This was the idea, Wednesdays and Thursday nights, and then the women's classes every day. This is how it started. Mind you, I work in real estate, but because of the way, I guess, how my business was structured, I had this crazy energy power that came in within me, and I'm like, I'm just putting everything I got into this thing. Fine, so we're gonna do this thing, but now all of a sudden I'm like, we can't do this in this Beit Midrash that looks like, ugh. This is like, ugh, no. I have to do things nice, and I remodel for a living.
Okay. This is your job. Right.
So I took I had my own line of credit. And I remodeled this Beit Midrash into a modern industrial looking space. I had hired one of the guys who'd done a lot of metal work at that time, Zach the Baker, when he was just opening up at that time, and he did a lot of cool things. And I want you to make like really cool like bookshelves that are made of like iron and pipes and like this kind of beautiful flooring, industrial. I love this. This is like my feel.
Yeah.
So I started working on now getting this whole place done, the furniture, the whole 9 yards. We have a huge, massive TV, live shot of the Kotel while we're learning. Just every single book, I brought a whole new book collection with everything you can think of is there. Every single aspect of Judaism was there.
And that's never been done anywhere else, right? This was the first.
First time.
Okay.
For sure. And what I always thought about is, because all the rabbis would ask me, like, I don't know how it's even possible to gather all these different segments of Judaism, and with love and peace and all good, let's put them all together, and everyone's like, okay with it. You needed to have a layman, a guy who's not a rabbi, who's not politically connected, who just like, gonna make it happen. Now, I always say it's like that, but really it's God is making it happen, flowing it through and just opening up the doors. Baruch Hashem, we start this thing. Oh, and on top of all that, I go, look, I know what it's like to not want to go learn. So one of the things I want to say is like, okay, we're not only gonna just do this awesome space that's awesome to walk into. So especially if I'm not observant, I don't feel like intimidated. I'm walking into like a shul. Like I want to make it cool for you. I said, let's make it that these nights that we're coming to have, we're having an amazing full out dinner, like an all out dinner from, we'll take one of the main restaurants in South Florida, awesome dinner menu, and every alcohol possible. We made a massive alcohol bar. Okay.
Right.
So now I'm like, make it fun for you. Like you can't tell me, oh, it's because I have to eat dinner. I'm like, you have dinner
Right.
and it's really good.
Yeah.
No. Like I want to, here, you have a full alcohol bar. You can chill out and relax.
Yeah, it's like
oh
the
no, I
club.
don't like one class. You have 9 to choose from. You walk in, you have like a buffet list, pick whichever one you want. No outs. You have to go.
Yeah.
And the women's program started before the men, so that started already taking off. At that time, social media was right in the prime beginning. Facebook, Instagram, all these kind of things was really, really still in the start. It's 2015. And at that time, I was like very obsessed with making this thing pop. And at that time, also in social media, there was no algorithms.
Yeah. It was beautiful.
It was beautiful time where people saw everything.
Yeah.
And I figured it out. I'm like, look, I created like a very just using your mind system. I'm like, look, if you've become friends with every single person in your sphere of networks, everyone's going to see it. Everyone's going to know. If you share in every single group possible, everyone's going to see, everyone's going to know. So I was on a mission. And like, so this thing took off. We started it, we launched it. Rabbi Zweig was the opening speaker. Ironically, I had to go back to the original person that was there. He was the opening night speaker. And then the thing began. And the first night I remember, I'll never forget it. It was like still in my mind. We had 45 men learning in this Beit Midrash the first night. The place is loud. And you hear all the, imagine there's 9 classes happening at the same time. And I'm like, I can't believe this is really real. This is really happening. And also, by the way, you walk in, we have music blasting. Like we have like a whole set list. So you're walking in, there's music, there's the food, there's the alcohol, everything settles down, then you learn your thing, and then maybe it's a Mariv afterwards. So this is how it started. And I'm putting all my effort into this thing. Almost the whole real estate thing just because like, I don't even know so much about it anymore. I don't even know how it happened. It just stayed. And we're going. The thing builds up. You have 45, 60, 75 people. All of a sudden, you're like at 100 people in this Beit Midrash that can't even fit these 100 people anymore. We branch off. We now have to make extra classes in the lobby to expand. And this thing is growing and growing and growing. Until one day, it got more interesting. And then we said, there are women that were like, we want to be a part of the night classes too. So we made classes now. There was men in the Beit Midrash, and there was also men and women classes in the building. And then we also made a women's class up separate in the building. Next thing you know, at the height of Lighthouse Project, you about had 150 people coming out to learn nightly. So I mean, I wasn't running this full time, but it was almost like a full-time job. It was very difficult, a lot of sack. I'm going there every night. You know, I'm not home. It's hard. It was hard. But the high that I would get from seeing all of this is just like beyond. And I felt like I was literally living in a Mashiach kind of concept where you felt like you're so mission driven to just help as many people get close to God. And God just opened up the channels.
Well, that's the template for Mashiach, right? Everybody, everyone, no matter who you are, wherever you are at that place, everybody's accepted. Everyone can learn and connect.
Correct. And I'm saying you had some connection to Lighthouse at some point.
I saw it on social media. I heard through different podcasts, and I heard it was amazing. I never got to go down there because I was living in Boca, but everyone was saying how great it was. Yeah.
And then the Lighthouse took another level because then eventually, and this is where the personal transformation comes in. It's amazing to do this for 1 million people. Like, I mean, a lot of people, you're helping out so many people and they're growing and they're excited. And I was like the guy you walk in, I was like the MC welcoming you guy. How are you? How you doing? Michael knows. Michael's running the thing, but I was that guy, okay? And within that process, between all the Torah classes, you know, I'm obviously trying to attend the classes, even though I'm trying to run the night and I'm all over the place. I make sure I'm learning. One of those classes that we had was a Breslov one. Remember, we have to have representation. So we have Ashkenazic, Breslov, all these different things. We had a guy who was one of the token Breslov teacher person, and he was giving classes. He was great, phenomenal. Quick, beautiful classes. That was actually my favorite. That's the ones I wanted to go to. And I would go and listen to him. One day he's like, I can't come tonight. I'm not feeling well. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. And he's like, why don't you have somebody else come in to maybe like take over my class for tonight. And I'm like, who do you want to? And he goes, well, there's a guy named Gedalia Fenster. He gives classes to like a couple of guys in the Breslov Center, like 2 or 3 guys, maybe a couple more sometimes. But he's really good. They really like him there. I'm like, Gedalia Fenster? Like, Gedalia Fenster? What? Like, I feel like I known about him from like a long time ago, maybe through the party scene. I'm not even sure, but like, what? And in that process, I called him up and I said, listen, I hear you're giving classes. You want to give a class? And he's like, no, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, just give a class. Like, and of course, that night that he was going to give the class, I was going to a Heat game. So I couldn't even be at the Lighthouse that night. And I had one of my buddies who was going to all the classes of the Lighthouse growing. And he, I told him, do me a favor. Can you go to this class for me? I'm so curious to like, so random. And he goes to the class and I finished the Heat game and I call him like, how did it go? He goes, Michael, this is the best class I've heard since Lighthouse started. Wow. About like 9 months, every single teacher in South Florida has been there, already outside, all the out of town tour people, everyone goes through the Lighthouse. So all of them were coming in, best class I've heard. And I'm like, how's that even, what? I'm like, so I go, I'm like, dude, you need to come back.
Yeah.
I want to hear you. He's like, no, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm like, no, you need to come back. I want to hear. So he goes, we're sitting in a table. We're like 8 guys. I listen to this class and I'm like, holy cow, this is different. I've never heard this before. And I was like my brain was like running on 3,000 miles an hour. I'm like, this is so amazingly different and good and motivational. And I'm like, this guy's the Tony Robbins of the Jewish world. Yeah. I coined them that just for the record. Yeah. I can say I'm the one. Okay. Thank you. And then so Baruch Hashem, like I kind of like made it like a personal agenda to make sure that I was a little biased, and I say it as it is. I pushed him like crazy on social media.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I pushed him in every single group in the world, in the Jewish world. Because even if he spoke whatever he was going to speak about, it was going to be interesting and different. And in that process, even while I was doing all those things, I kind of took a lot of slack because I was getting at like from different people in the Torah world. They're like, who is this guy? This guy does not look like the part. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? I'm like, listen, I don't know what to tell you, but I'm running this project. And I think this is doing a lot of good things for people. And I feel like it's good. And it's doing good for me. And this is where I have my own personal growth. So I'm done listening to his classes and I'm growing. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I really like Rabbi Nachman's teachings. And that's when I started saying, but I want more. I need more. It was getting surface level, stuff. And his stuff is good, as we know, his stuff is amazing, but like I need to go deeper. Right. And that's when at that time, Nassim Maimon, Rav Chaim Kramer, Rabbi Gedalia was bringing all these people in, Rabbi Meir Elkabaz. He was bringing all these teachers in to South Florida all the time. So I started connecting myself to them. And eventually, Rav Maimon, which I mentioned before many times, he was the first person that I said, you know what? Like, that's a concept of having holy chutzpah. And I said to him, you need to teach me Likutei Moharan. I need to learn. I want to learn. And he saw that I was like, really being pushy, but like I was being, sincere. And he's like, okay, let's learn. And so I learned with him a couple of nights in Miami. And the first time I learned Likutei Moharan, my soul was on fire. And I've never felt that before in my life. Mm-hmm. And it was the moment, it was like an aha moment where like, wow. And not just that, but that was the first time ever after meeting Rav Maimon and meeting a person, a rabbi, who, again, 35 years, maybe 35, 36 at the time. And I remember saying, I don't have a rabbi. I don't have a rabbi guy that I look up to. And the Torah says specifically, a Sadach Rav, you need to have a rabbi.
Right.
It's very important. I never had one. I always felt like I saw something that either didn't fit the role that I maybe had very high standards, but like the rab that I had to have humility, knowledge, care, understanding, can have a conversation, but like he's a tzaddik and he does all the high spiritual things. Like this is what I envision a rab to look like. And with Rav Maimon, I'm like, wow, like he's hitting all the boxes for me. And he's in Israel.
He's incredible.
He's incredible.
Such an inspiration.
Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
And we ended up going on a journey together, learning. I would wake up, midnight, 1 a.m, 2 a.m, and we learned Likutei Moharan straight, 30 chapters. Straight. And that was a long process because Likutei Moharan chapters are very long. So imagine I was putting in the effort, I'd be waking up, Tikkun Hatzot now. I'm doing the avodas that, the high level stuff that nobody told me about. I didn't know about so much about Judaism that, I feel like the sea splitting.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Nobody told me about this throughout my religious life, about everything that there's so much in Torah and there's so much in Kabbalah and there's so much in mysticism and there's so much. And Rabbi Nachman is giving it all to me through learning just alone Likutei Moharan. I didn't need anything really else. So I was immersed in Likutei Moharan. While I'm doing that, I started teaching on Shabbat because I can't teach during Lighthouse. I'm running the Lighthouse. And I had a class with like 2 guys learning Likutei Moharan. And that happened for years, just learning on Shabbat. So that's where I started getting my teaching bug. It's just like doing it on the side and starting to see look, conversation, I can do this. I went to school for television. I can speak. I'm not I'm not like a mute person. I can do this. Lighthouse Project takes off. The story with Gedalia, we know it today. Mm-hmm. He is one of the top speakers in the world today. Yeah. I always tell him, he always tells me, I have all the residuals. Whatever, every time I get a story, you don't even understand. Gedalia changed my life. I'm like, do you know that I'm the one who got Gedalia to have the center stage?
To me, yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll take it. So Baruch Hashem to that. And again, the Lighthouse became not only a South Florida thing, it became a worldwide thing. Yeah. People from around the world were saying, oh yeah, of course, the Lighthouse Project. I'm like, it's still insane to me. I remember the first time I was in Uman, Rosh Hashanah, and I'd be walking around and people were recognizing me in Uman. And I thought that was really weird for me that I'm like, oh my God, people really watch this stuff.
Yeah, they know.
And they know. This was somebody talking to me before, you were walking on the street and someone would recognize you. And it was like, holy cow, this social media stuff is real. People actually do watch this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, I'm like, wow, this is bigger than I thought. So, okay, that was the part of the Lighthouse Project. And then leading to the teaching is that when COVID hit, we don't have Lighthouse Project anymore as an entity of a place to go to. So we moved the whole Lighthouse Project into an online forum. We had classes every single night. And we had, again, a beautiful array of different teachers, different classes, all different type of things, which was really cool. And I said, you know what? Now that I'm in COVID, I don't have to go to place, time to teach. And that's when I started my own journey. I'm like, I want to teach Likutei Moharan.
That was your first time teaching?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
Officially, not in a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minute, little social media thing that I want to say, more like a legit class. And that's when I started that during COVID. And obviously that was going on for a while. And then after COVID, we went back into the world. Baruch Hashem, there's more to say. We're still in the process, but.
It's so beautiful because I read something the other day, and I like to find inspiration wherever Hashem sends it to me. So I look for the little clues that he sends, and I always have my eyes open for it. And it said, be yourself, because the people that are looking for you want to find you.
Very nice.
And that was what you were doing. You started becoming yourself, and then look at this beautiful project that you started, and now you're giving classes and you give meditations. And how did you get to the meditation part of it?
Right.
Where did that come from?
So 2017, Rav Daniel Katz, I had seen him through social media. And again, at that time, the social media Torah world wasn't so vast. It was you knew who everybody was in the game, and everybody knew who you were.
Yeah, and it wasn't an appropriate platform. Really, people didn't feel like it. It was where women were posting their handbags and your coffees.
Yes.
You weren't posting spiritual stuff.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And I was watching Rav Daniel Katz. I didn't know much about him. I saw a couple videos about him. And he was going to be he said he was releasing this thing called the Elevation Project, right?
Yeah.
And, I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And I said, oh, I want to get into it. And I started learning. He had the first 9 classes that were like the basic level, entry level classes that anybody can watch. And I'll never forget it because that was another stepping stone for me. Is when I saw those classes, I'm like, this is the best Torah I've heard. And like, I've never seen Torah being spoken about in this way. I'm like, this is crazy. Good.
Yeah.
Wow.
His
Wow.
stuff is incredible.
We weren't even talking about meditation. He was just like talking, going through those 9 classes. I'm like, I know these concepts. I've never heard it like this before. This is 2017, so I'm still in my growth process in Breslov. I'm not even holding at a high level yet, and nothing. I'm still growing. But I was like, wow, this is amazing. I go, let's bring you to Miami. Let's do something here with the Lighthouse Project. So Baruch Hashem, we were able to figure it out, and he came for like a 2-night in a row at the Lighthouse Project in Miami. We did
wow.
2 nights with him.
That's nice.
And we did meditation stuff with him. And it was really beautiful, and it was really, really nice. And it was very well received. And obviously we formed a relationship there that's still to this day. And again, it's very nice, but like I didn't go anywhere in regards to like meditation. There was no like post stuff. Like I wasn't holding there. I didn't join his course. I couldn't do everything. Lighthouse Project already took up a lot of my time. So it's kind of like, that was awesome. I wish I could keep doing that. And then as time goes by, as you understand with many other things, they just slowly drift away. It's there, but I'm not holding there right now. Fast forward, he got sick, and COVID came around. He was not feeling well, and then he reached out to me, and he's like, I want to make it's like a comeback, and I'm like, I want to do like a retreat. What do you think about that? And I said, I think that's awesome. Let's try to figure this out. Let's do something in Florida, in Miami. It ended up being, Baruch Hashem, that 2 students walked into my class one day, Linda and Moy. Long story short is I introduced Moy and Linda to hear his stuff. And they're like, this is awesome. And then from there, it went to like, I'm like telling him, like, look, he reached out to me. I'm like, he asked me about a retreat. I'm just trying to like figure it out. I don't know. And he's like, oh, what about Mexico? You know a place in Tulum, Mexico? I'm like, Tulum, Mexico? And when I think the first words that I think Tulum, Mexico, I think Avodah Zarah.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, that's not a good idea. That's not a good look, right? But they're like, no, we should look into it. Let's look into it. And I connected with the Rav, and the Rav's like, oh, this is interesting. And ended up building and building until Baruch Hashem, the thing started. But I made a deal. And I'm so grateful to this day that I made this deal.
Okay.
The deal I said with Rav Daniel Katz, and I said this to Linda and Moy. I said, listen, you want me to be involved in this retreat? I run stuff. This is what I do. But I go, you want me to do this? No problem. But here's the catch. The moment the program starts, I am not involved in the retreat, management of any of that nature. I want to be a student. I want to learn. I don't want to be the guy running it. That was the deal.
That's great that you've got that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, with some slack, but but
Okay.
I felt like I had to be selfish because for the betterment of just being growing. And I always, in the Lighthouse, there's a million classes, and I'm always in and out. This, when somebody needs that, you're there for helping everybody.
But you can't even absorb it.
I can't absorb it, so I had to be selfish, and I said, you know what? No. And Baruch Hashem ended up being that they ran that program like rock stars. That program came out beautifully. I put in the right players together, but I was out of it. What happened in that program? In Tulum, I experienced for the first time ever, besides the incredible teachings that he was teaching at that time, more about higher consciousness, just experiencing higher levels of consciousness, I finally got my first taste of what it was like to actually now say, not only am I meditating, but I'm out. I actually experienced elevation. And that was the first time in my life that I really, really on a high level experienced it. And I documented it, and I have still to this day, I have wrote it all down, what I experienced, and it was wild. I connected with the tzaddik. I had incredible stories that happened in that experience. I'm like, this is real. Guess what? Come back to Miami.
Yeah. And crash.
And there is a crash, but there was also no real, I would say, super strong follow-up group. There also wasn't a large cast of people from South Florida as much as I would have liked it to be. There were 160 people on that thing. It was still a lot of people, but it were more from all over different places. But I said, because I'm already giving classes at that time, I said, you know what? Like, I got the material. I understand to an extent where I'm holding with this material. Like, let's try to see if we can do this. I can teach this meditation to people in my class. And that's how it started. So instead of like, right as soon as I got back, everyone's like, Mike goes back from elevation. This guy's probably like on, and I'm like, guys, don't worry. I'm sharing this knowledge with you guys.
Okay.
And whatever level I'm holding, I'm going to give you whatever I got. And next thing you know, we did the first meditation and second meditation. And this is happening now in Netiv Ezra in Highland Lakes at that time. And people were like, holy cow. And I was like, holy cow. That you're holy cow. That I got you to that place. And they're like, Michael, no, you don't understand. They're like this and this and this. And I'm like, oh my God, this is real. It's not just Rav Daniel Katz. Like, if you're holding and if you have the talent to have the guts to take people on this journey,
right,
it's doable. So I kept on doing it and doing it and doing it. And so when like anything else, you get better at it and better at it and better at it. And while that was going on, eventually it led to where we're at now, which is, I think, another new milestone.
Yeah. So where are you in this new milestone? Because we were talking a little bit before the podcast and in your classes, and there's many different versions of Michael.
Yeah.
And now there's this new one that's coming up.
Yeah.
And I think you're most excited for this one.
Yes.
This one is like huge. This one's big. This is a calling for you.
So I'm going to tell you like this, because we just finished the series. We're about to finish it right now. It's about Hashem, learning the Lost Princess, about Rabbi Nachman's famous tale, about really knowing who you are and really chasing that path. I'm going to read this to you. This is an excerpt from Rav Kook, who is somebody I feel very much connected to, tremendously.
And he said that he was...
And he said that he is Rabbi Nachman. And he says something like this. He says, many people have left religion because in their learning and spiritual perfection, they betrayed their unique personalities. For example, a person may be naturally talented in matters of Agada. Agada means storytelling. I hear the stories in the Gemara. I love the stories in the Gemara. And he could be unsuited to constant immersion in matters of halacha. Meaning, I'll learn something and it's like halacha, and it's like, and my soul's like, okay. Like I'm just not excited about it. Like it doesn't do anything for me. So he says, yet because he does not recognize his unique talents, he occupies himself in matters of Gemara and its commentaries, since he sees that that's customary in the religious world today. People feel pressure that if I'm becoming observant, and I see this now more when I live now North Miami Beach. By the way, it's a whole story about my house fire burning down.
We have you again for that one. That's like a whole
That's
cool
a whole
story.
other story in itself. But I moved to North Miami Beach, which is a more Haredi right community, and you see that there, that people feel this pressure, like I have to go learn Gemara. Like Gemara is it, right? And this is for me, it's a new world for me because I'm coming from the Baal Tshuva land where everything goes, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And here, like, it's like Gemara, 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 right? So he says, the person occupies himself with Gemara, right? Because that's the custom. But deep inside his soul, he feels a hatred toward the material he's learning, since constant involvement in it does not suit his unique natural gifts. And he ends up talking about, it's a long, long thing, but he basically just says that you are doing a disservice to yourself. If you are not learning what makes you happy in your passion of your soul that gives you the fire to connect to Hashem, you're doing a disservice to your own self and your own neshama. Don't think that just because, yes, everyone, there's Gemara and all that stuff, you need to find who you are, find your passion, and yes, maybe once you find that passion, guess what? Like he says, for me, I'm an Agadita type of guy, Rav Kook says. But you know what? Through Agadita, I eventually ended up liking regular halacha Gemara.
See, that's so powerful because we usually hear that you are meant to learn this and you're meant to do this and you're meant to do this and then like spice it up with other stuff. But he's saying, no, find where your soul is, find where you're being drawn to, and then all that stuff will come in.
It'll come in because you're connecting to yourself.
Right.
And that is like huge. And I think that the Lost Princess, I've gone through my own personal journey, teaching Likutei Maharan. Then I said, you know what, like the Life of a Breslover series, which was a very big one for me. It was a massive undertaking to go through this one little pamphlet from a person named Rav Itzhak Breiter, who was a massive tzaddik who passed away in the Holocaust. of what it means to be a life of the Breslover. And he just writes down like paragraphs that are like 3-4 sentences long. Wake up in the morning, do this. Shachari, do this. It's a whole 28 line items. And I'm like, I want to open this up and find out, where does Rabbi Nachman talk about all this stuff? So this was like my own personal journey, like trying to follow like what is calling to me. And then the next thing was the Tikkun HaKlali. I say it every day, but what does it mean? And I went through a big thing to go through each specific stanza, spent a lot of time investing into what is the Tikkun HaKlali really. That was another calling for me. Then the calling for me is like, I never really learned Rabbi Nachman's stories like well. And then like The Lost Princess was like, that's the one I got to do. And for me, it's going to be good too, because I get to learn it really well and understand it. And you can see that in The Lost Princess, a lot of people have been affected by it, because it's really the story of everyone's life. And I don't care where you're holding in the Jewish spectrum, it's talking to that person.
In your classes, you have people that are Hasidim to people who you wouldn't even know if they're Jewish, have no idea. Everybody connects to the same stories of Rabbi Nachman. And Rabbi Nachman said, my stories wake people up.
Correct. That's part of the reason. And also, it's like, you just don't know.
Yeah.
You have no idea. And then within that Lost Princess, I feel like I found a new gear in me, where like, it just feels like, you know what? Like, because one of those chapters, which is a very profound one for me, is, I think we might have spoken about it earlier. It's called A Place in This World. Place in This World also happens to be a very famous song, 1980s and 90s.
Yeah.
Like I said, all my classes should start off with like some secular song that I want to make a tikkun on and rectify it, because they all these songs pop into my brain all day long.
Yeah.
And a place in this world really means you need to follow your path that excites you, that makes you alive. I felt like with meditation, higher consciousness. Now we just got back from this incredible elevation meditation retreat that we just did, which is a whole other thing to discuss for another time maybe. It's what needs to be out now. It's literally this stuff, the higher consciousness, meditation, Kabbalah, modalities, healing. This is where we're going. This is the direction I feel like the Jewish world needs to be heading to, and slowly but surely inculcating and kind of like starting to slowly but surely start affecting even the more of the right Haredi world. It's happening on a slow pace, but we're there.
Why do they need Kabbalah and meditation? It's always been very taboo. It's like you can learn it when you're 40 and you're married and you can just dabble in it. Why do they need that like injection of it? Why didn't you need the hook up to the IV?
I
Why
think
now?
that, well, it depends where in the Judaism you're holding.
Let's just say anybody. They're on the religious spectrum. They're on the non-religious spectrum. Why is this what we need now?
So that question has a lot of answers. I think right now in the generation that we're living, it's such a false generation. It's so much everything against what really the truth is, right? We live in a world of sheker, and people want the truth. I think I've always felt that through Lighthouse Project. People want the truth.
Yeah.
People want to hear truth. Even if it hurts, I want to hear it. And that truth can come out conceptually in the mind, and you can kind of like internalize that truth. And I think that the next step after it's in your mind is to actually now experientially really feel and understand that concept and feel what it's like to connect to God on a very real, truthful way.
Do you feel like it's because Judaism has been dried out so much that now we need this? Like it's going to save us almost?
I think so. I think that, you know, obviously we know that before Mashiach comes, there's going to be a lot of Torah been putting out there. There's a lot of quotes from different tzaddikim across the board. The Vilna Gaon says it, right? That the knowledge is going to spread. The knowledge of God is just going to keep on going. It's going to keep on growing. And in order to have knowledge of God, real knowledge, das, is by having a real intimate experience with God. And I think that once people experience it like we experienced it,
That immersive.
an
right?
immersive manner, without judgment, and then learning that this is all based on Torah, not just like heebie-jeebie stuff, but you're actually connecting to what our sages have taught, that really that's the elephant in the room, which leads to Aryeh Kaplan.
Yes. Okay. So you love his books. You speak so much about him, and I know that you're really connected to him. So where does that come in now with this new version of you that is emerging?
I think that we look at a person like Rav Daniel Katz. Rav Daniel Katz has now set the new stage in regards to making meditation, higher consciousness more available. Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan was doing that in the 1980s.
Wow.
Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan is a Breslover. Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, his family's from Turkey. I connect already on a lot of levels. He's the first Torah book that I ever connected with. I'll never forget this. When I started becoming observant and going to synagogue and with my in-laws, I used to have to walk home. I used to do the Shabbat sometimes by myself in my house with my family. And I remember I was picking up all of Rabbi Kaplan's books and reading them. And every book I read was like a wonder to me. Like, this is the greatest thing ever. That's how much I was obsessed and passionate about. They did so much for me in my original growth. Once I was already not going to shul, those were the books that I was reading. And I can never forget every Shabbat. I couldn't wait to learn his book. It was like a calling for me. Like, it was the most amazing thing. Obviously, I grew in, and okay, the books go to the side. I have news for you. Aryeh Kaplan is in almost everyone's bookshelves in the Jewish world today.
Yeah.
Ironically.
I feel like people don't even know. Like, oh, I have one of his books in my bookshelf.
Isn't
Look at
that interesting,
Yeah.
right? So people like almost like, okay, it's to the side, right? Now, after experiencing, so God had to like show me like different things, right? And now it's like, look, here's the deal. I need you to do me a favor. This is the calling that I have where I'm holding right now. Aryeh Kaplan has written so much about meditation. Aryeh Kaplan has written a lot about Kabbalah, right? These books are gold. There's a calling there to say, look, let's try to now bring in some of his teachings, actually create content based upon his teachings alone, which is really just teaching Kabbalah in general, but putting his books out there more like in video format, in class format, so people really understand how amazing really it is. And just alone now that I've gone back and like rereading a lot of these meditation books now, I'm just like, and now also more mature, more knowledge on wherever I'm holding right now. I mean, obviously we have millions of years to go.
Yeah.
But where I'm holding right now, I'm like, this is a giant who needs to be out there. And everybody has it. So in my mind, I'm like, I want to create like this massive Aryeh Kaplan movement, like with the website, and like pound his name out there. And now people can actually learn his shiurim, properly, go through the content. And what I've seen and through his content is like, we learn certain things already now under what we learned with our Daniel Katz, for example. There's a lot of stuff that we did not learn that is in these books that we can use and adapt not only for our own knowledge, but for meditations and what people were doing from back in the day during the times of the Beit HaMikdash. And like, we can learn this stuff and use it.
It's amazing that we did this and we lost it. And this was like normal every day. Like, we'd sit, we'd meditate, manifest, and it would come.
There were 3 million prophets.
Wow.
3 million prophets. How were there 3 million prophets? Because there were schools of prophecy. Why can't we bring that back? Why can't we start that over again? Rav Daniel Katz has already stepped away, but he's one person. And now I feel like we as a collective, right, the people that have been impacted by this, like, we can do more. We can really now go big. And if you're like, look, if Hashem is going to make it happen, he'll make it happen.
Right.
And he's going to open up the doors. And I think that's where we're at right now.
Well, I think that's your role, and that's so beautiful that the world is primed for this now through the last 6 years in what's been going on in the world. You've had COVID, you've had all the stuff that's been happening in Israel, politically, social media, everybody has everything accessible now. And now the right voices are going to be able to talk to those people who are looking for it. People are hungry for it. They are looking for more. Like when you said you came to Chabad and it was wonderful, but there was something that you needed more. And to be able to cater to people who are looking to dive deeper and to connect to God, anybody who has the ability and the platform, it's a calling. You almost don't have a choice. You don't have a choice to do what you want to do.
Correct. And I will tell you 2 things about that. Speaking of Chabad, 1979, you could look this up. The Lubavitcher Rebbe has a whole essay explaining why Jewish meditation needs to come into the forefront.
Wow.
He wanted to actually inculcate and make like some sort of like methodology or a program where there could be this kind of meditation, more simple, not like Aryeh Kaplan style, but to start something. Again, think about Chabad, more basic level. It never took off. Who knows who he gave it to? This didn't go anywhere. This is Lubavitcher Rebbe, 1979, and it's very well documented everywhere. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is that you were saying is in regards to this idea is that when you introduced me to the rabbi with astrology,
Yes.
Rabbi Itzhak
Pinchas.
Pinchas.
Yes.
And I did my chart with him. That's when things took another level.
I know. I never got to hear
Yeah.
what was in there.
So there's a lot in there. And one of the main takeaways is that he pretty much laid it out for me. He's like, you have a mission. It's very, very, very big. There's a lot going to be happening within the next, like now, like all these years, like now, beginning now, that's going to get like a lot. Like I goes, I never seen something. And I always tell him, like, you talk to people, you tell everybody the same thing.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I've never seen so many big things, one after the other, after the other, after the other. The next X amount of years is just like non-stop. And you have a very big mission. And one of the things he said to me, and again, it's part of this whole process I had to go through and experience. Because when we went to the elevation thing, that's one of the things that was a big takeaway for me is healing. I never looked at higher consciousness really so much combined with healing.
Yeah, and we did that on the retreat. 200 people.
We did. And
crazy.
you did very well.
Yes. It was intense, yeah.
It was amazing. And he said, he's like, part of my, I guess, with the different signs, and I'm not an expert in that yet. I have to, that's another book to get there on.
Yeah.
But he basically said, it's like your job is also to help people heal. That's part of my avoda. In healing, in what modality, he obviously talks about this idea with regards to meditation. It's the Torah, it's a different things, but healing, it's my own healing that I had to experience. Like I did a lot of healing on this retreat. That was not my intention. I was not going for healing. In the beginning when we got there, he's like, what's your intention? I'm like, yeah, because I just want to get close to God and I want to learn. And I was like releasing things that it was not my intention. And he always said to me, he's like, you're going to be constantly healing, and then you need to take that and you need to heal as many people. And like, that's a big thing. And you have a big, big, big mission. And like these next years are very big, crucial years to make very big things happen. So I'm taking that in, like he's like, just be open to whatever comes your way, which is what I am. Obviously he doesn't tell you like, this is what's going to happen, but the big thing that he's talking about, he says like, you're going to have that famous Martin Luther King speech thing. That's about to happen like within the next like couple of years. And that's like a once in a lifetime thing. I don't know what that is yet. I'm not sure. But I'm opening up my horizons and I'm opening up myself because I realize like this is bigger than I thought. When I was doing Lighthouse Project, I thought like this is big in my little small world, my own Leo world.
Yeah.
Right? This is the biggest thing ever. And then one day God's like, yeah, this is the biggest thing ever. See ya. And he like literally just disconnected it. And it was very hard for me.
It's been very painful.
It was very, very painful. That's part of the healing I had to do in this thing. But it was also excellent. It was amazing healing because you knew if Hashem was with you that whole time for a reason. It was all part of a process. I had to learn stuff that I didn't know about before or whatever. So now I feel like, okay, we're on the next step. There's a new horizon coming. I feel like there's big things coming our way, and we're in the forefront. You're in the forefront too. There's a reason that people went on this meditation retreat, right? Everybody has now these roles, these goals. They have to do something. You can't just walk in and keep it for yourself.
Yeah.
Why did God choose you, right, to be there?
It reminds me of this pasuk in the Torah, and I'm paraphrasing here. It says, be kind to converts because you were once also strangers in the land. Basically telling us, like, don't forget that you were once here. You were once not religious. You were once disconnected from God. You were once totally lost. The reason that you went through that is now you're meant to go and help the people that are now there. So you're at the end of the line. You have to go back and help all those people. And that's the reason. That's why when I talk about any trauma that I've gone through or people have gone through, it's like, once you go through this trauma or once you've gone through this learning experience, it is because the Torah is telling you, you now have to go back and help people. That's your job. That's the only reason you went through it. Things don't happen in a void. They don't just happen for no reason. Now it's your job. You've graduated to be a surgeon. Now you have to be a surgeon.
Right.
You have to. This is your mission.
Very good. You're saying it right. I don't have to say anything else. That's perfectly said. Yeah, Baruch Hashem. And again, like There's a lot of thinking about what we need to do, but one thing's for sure, and I think you'll agree with me on this, is that there's a lot of work to do, but the future looks bright. We have an amazing opportunity to bring a lot of light to the world right now, and God is just setting up the pieces to bring us home. And you just have to be open and see, like, what are you, Hashem, that's the constant now back and forth conversations. Like, it's almost like, sounds kind of surreal to say it, almost Moses like talking to God, like, what do you want from me?
Right. Burning bush moment.
What do you want from me? Is this what you want from me? Then help me do what you want me to do.
Yeah.
And then the one thing also that's important is, and Rabbi Nachman talks about this a lot, and every time I'm learning Likutei Maharan, it's like, it's so funny. It's like the Rebbe's just talking to me. Every new chapter is like, oh, this is going on in my life. What a shocker. And he's talking about it.
It's like your weekly horoscope.
Really,
kind of thing.
horoscope. Very good. And really at the end of the whole thing, it's just giving honor to God. You just got to give him the kavod. And how do you do that? By bringing souls back to him. That's it. And if you can do that, and God has blessed you with the ability to do it, right? You're going to be living a very, very purposeful life. And a very purposeful life is a happy life. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's all we want.
Right. You bring glory to God, and then everything else falls into place. You live that happy, purposeful life. And then wherever you need to go, wherever you land, you'll land. And you're protected, and you're happy, and you're safe. Your intentions are pure. You're connected to the light, the Ein Sof, everything that's around you. You're connected to Hashem, and then everything just falls beautifully into place by bringing honor to God. I love that concept.
Yeah.
So after Lighthouse has now changed and evolved, where do you see the future of Lighthouse going?
So now what we want to start doing is creating a place that it's actually going to be called the Lighthouse, not just a project within a synagogue. It'll actually be a space. In this space, my envision would be like just making a super cool, modern, loungy kind of an atmosphere where not only this beautiful Torahs are being taught that are really the ones that are changing people and helping them grow, but also where meditation, higher consciousness, and modalities are actually being taught daily. Wow. So for example, if today I want to go to the 5 o'clock meditation on Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's what we're doing today. Sounds great. And if I want to do the 7 o'clock breath work, obviously based on Torah and using these kind of things, that's awesome. This is a very interesting example to combine it to, but let's say nowadays you have workout places like Orange Theory, Barry's Boot Camp. Well, the Lighthouse is the spiritual component of that. I'll reserve my class. I know which one I'm going to go to. You have all these instructors, right? But it's all based upon Judaism. The place has to look amazing. We have all the biggest concerts happening consistently. So it's not just only a place of meditation, higher consciousness, Kabbalah, but it's musically engaging. So really it becomes like the Mecca of really the place where everybody can go to experience Judaism on a really deep level, but really based on Torah, none of this other stuff that might come and confuse. It's all based on Torah, and that means healing as well. So if we have different type of healers that are coming by, energy healers.
I know a few.
You know a few? We'll talk.
Yeah.
But again, right now, like I'm thinking about this, I'm in a stage where I'm opening myself up to just like whatever modality is coming my way. I'm like, cool, I want to try that. Like I just see right now, next week, I'm going to be doing an Abulafia meditation. Abulafia is high level movements and names. And like, I want to learn that. And just like I did astrology and then we're doing breath work and doing energy healing, and give me as much as I need to learn, as many things that are out there, because guess what? I want to bring them all into Lighthouse. I want everybody to have access to all of this stuff. It should not be something that like, oh, I didn't know, I found it from a friend. I'm like, no, Lighthouse has everything you need to give you healing, to help you get close to Hashem in a beautiful way with Torah. Like this is really what we're heading to. This is the times of Mashiach, to have this. And of course, we can tie it in with even, hey, why don't you have this Daf Yomi class inside the Lighthouse? Beautiful. Bring the regular Torah as well. I want that also be a part of it. But this other stuff that has been hiding for so long, as we spoke about in my class, the tzaddik blows off the dust.
Oh, I love that visual. You had a picture of the hot coals, and as they cool down, they have gray dust on the top.
And the tzaddik's job is to blow it off, to show that the fire's still there.
Oh, I love that.
And this is what we need to do with all of our, it's our tradition. It's there. It's there for the taking. It can't just be in books anymore.
No.
We need to bring this out to the masses.
We taught it to the world, and now we bring it back.
Correct. That's the goal, Bizrat
Oh
Hashem.
my gosh. I'm so
The
excited
donations
for
should come to make this real.
that. Not donations to the Lighthouse Jupiter Project. They're great and they're wonderful, but this is a plug for a Lighthouse. So
Bizrat Hashem.
awesome. That's really great.
Yeah.
So I hope that through this podcast, we were able to bring a lot of honor to God
Amen.
and inspire people, tell them what's coming up, and really let people know that, like what you said from Rav Kook, was don't just pigeonhole yourself to a part of Judaism or your religion because you feel that this is what you have to do. Find what feels good. Find your purpose. Find what inspires you and what excites you, and go for that. And then the whole world will open up for you beautifully instead of pigeonholing yourself into where you think you have to be to find God. God is everywhere. Oh, that's not true. Wait. God is where you let him in.
That's also true. He's both.
Yes.
He's everywhere and where you want him to
Yeah.
be. Very good. Beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. It was such an honor to have you on this podcast.
pleasure.
And I'm excited to see this new chapter. Michael, I think the whole world is excited to see what you're going to give us.
That's a
So
shame.
we're very excited for that. Thank you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
And scene. Yay. Oh, that's the perfect sound.